Tonight, active shooter training credited for saving lives during the synagogue standoff in Texas this weekend. The FBI has videos on its website to teach you what to do. But are you prepared? We're going to be talking to someone who conducts this type of training. Also, the new American epidemic, fentanyl. A 13-year-old boy dies over the weekend from an overdose. We'll ask the former second in command at the DEA about his death and the one thing that he would do now to prevent more deaths like this. And the warning from U.S. Airlines over the rollout of 5G. They are calling it a catastrophic aviation crisis that could strand tens of thousands of passengers all across the country. And paying tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., I'm going to be speaking with a retired L.A. police sergeant who rose to the top of the ranks of a male and white-dominated profession. She gives us her perspective on opportunities in America for Black Americans. I'm Marni Hughes, in for Joe Donlon tonight. The Donlon Report starts right now. Terror at a synagogue in Texas. The weekend hostage situation could have been a lot worse, but the rabbi credits active shooter training with saving lives. That is the pulse of America tonight. Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker was among the 4 hostages at a congregation, Besh Israel, in Colleyville, Texas on Saturday. He says his congregation has taken security training over the years from both the police, the FBI, and others, all responding to the scene this weekend. But in the end, it came down to the rabbi's own split-second decision and his training when the hostage taker wasn't getting what he wanted. Take a look.
The exit wasn't too far away. I told them to go. I threw a chair at the gunman, and I headed for the door. And all 3 of us were able to get out without even a shot being fired.
Makes you think what you would do in that situation. In fact, there are training videos right there on the FBI website. One is titled "Prepare to Survive." What would you do if a gunman suddenly entered a bar or a restaurant or anywhere that you happen to be visiting? Here is what the FBI tells us.
Running makes you harder to hit and improves your chances of survival. I'm in the direct line of fire if I head for either exit, but I have other options to help me survive.
Both my exits are blocked by the shooter. I gotta stay hidden.
It's pretty chilling. Another FBI video actually uses a synagogue as a backdrop in a 1-minute crash course in saving your life. What if you have no way out?
If running is too risky, hide in a secure place. Lock or barricade yourself in. Fighting is always your last resort, but if you must, empower yourself. Find something to use as a weapon.
The rabbi in Saturday's siege admits without instruction, we would not have been prepared to act and flee when the situation presented itself. Americans taking action when it counts and also preparing themselves to do so. That is the unfortunate reality we all face, and it is where we begin our conversation tonight with Brian Entin, who spent part of his day today at active shooter training. Brian.
Yeah, Marni, we were inside this church behind me. It's so sad that this is the world we live in, that these places of worship have to do active shooter and hostage situation training. But all of the experts we spoke to today said it is absolutely essential that every house of worship do this training. And we heard from the rabbi. He had the training, and that is why he knew how to react. We learned inside today that depending on the situation, there are different alternatives. Sometimes it's best to run. Sometimes it's best to hide, and sometimes, like the rabbi did, you have to fight back.
The first thing I would look for is something that has some weight to it. Something like here, this candle, a chair that you see over here, something that I could incapacitate that subject with, that assailant. And an option is like a chair like this. And when I do commit to this option to defend myself and my life and other people's lives, I want to commit to it and really target the head on that threat. I'm looking for incapacitation.
And one of the biggest messages is what he said, committing to an option, making a decision and sticking to it. So if you decide you're going to fight like the rabbi did, make that decision, grab something, and fight back.
Wow, a lot we can learn. Brian Entin, as always, thank you. All right, let's continue this conversation now. I'd like to bring in Hal Kempfer, a security consultant and founder of Global Risk Intelligence and Planning. He trains people for active shooter situations. Sir, we appreciate your time tonight. I understand you were just in Texas holding a seminar on this very thing. What is your priority and focus during active shooter training? What's your message?
Marni, my message is basically preparing. It's a preparedness for the group. We talk about run, hide, fight, but we also get into the details of what each one entails. And when we talk about fight, we talk about distraction, which is what the rabbi did, throwing a chair at him. And in this case, they kind of did a hybrid of distraction and run, and it worked extremely well. But if they do have to fight and take them on, we talk about distraction, disarming, which is not necessarily wresting the weapon away, but pointing another direction. And then, of course, disabling, taking them down, and taking control of the situation. But I have to say, this is a case study we're going to be talking about for years in how this was done right. And the rabbi did exactly the right things. And this really does kind of capstone the training that's been going on for years.
Right, and walk me through what else you think he did right, because it's easy to go through training, but it's a much different task to be in this chaotic situation with a gun pointed at you, the threat is imminent, how you put that practice into action. So walk us through the steps you think he got right that we can learn from.
Well, one of the things he did right off the top was, and he talked about this when he was being interviewed earlier today, he's used to listening. He's used to building a connection with the people he's talking to. And his ability to develop that connection with the shooter, or it wasn't a shooter, but with the terrorist, enabled him to develop a certain rapport. And I think throughout that 11-hour ordeal, he was able to diffuse a lot of potential flashpoints in that situation and able to build a connection. And if you have that connection, particularly if law enforcement, SWAT, if you will, in this case, the hostage rescue team for the FBI, if they're going to do a dynamic entry of some sort, that connection might buy a half second or a little bit of time necessary to save lives. And that may be the case here. It may be his personal connection, if you will, his ability to empathize with the terrorist, along with swift, decisive action to distract him, to injure him, made a huge difference. And then again, I don't have the details exactly, but it looks like the hostage rescue team was right there. And we may find out that there may have been some nonverbal communications with the rabbi or something where he knew that they were right there, and that may have been part of his decision to take the action. When he did take the action.
There tends to be a mental health component in many of these attacks. Does your guidance change when the person involved, in this case, the active shooter, is in a crisis state of mind?
Well, in active shooter training, we don't normally get into a lot of psychological profiling, if you will, of the active shooter. In fact, most active shooter scenarios, there isn't a whole lot of hostage taking going on. What normally happens is, especially if they're an active shooter, they're coming in shooting, which means they're trying to basically kill people to cause as many casualties in as short a period of time as possible. So in that situation, we don't talk about building up a lot of empathy. Now, going back other years and dealing with other training, when we're talking about, and my history, I've done things like being a shooter or leading shooters, going in, taking out, doing hostage rescue type of training. I've never actually had to do it in an operational sense, but being ready to do so. That's a different situation. Also negotiation, trying to build some sort of better understanding, a common language with which you can try and take better control of the situation and avoid the terrorist or the potential active shooter from engaging in deadly acts.
Well, the reality is, as I said earlier, many of us may find ourselves in a situation similar to this. It does feel as though it happens more often. It's better that we're prepared. Hal Kempfer, security consultant and retired Marine intelligence officer, we appreciate, as always, your insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Marni.
And we are not finished with this important topic. Catch more on this story and how you can stay safe in an active shooter situation. I'll be continuing that conversation tonight on NewsNation Prime. That's in a couple of hours, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Shifting gears now to a story that we have brought you before on this program, the fight over the vaccine mandate in the city of Boston. Starting January 24th, anyone who works for the city of Boston and does not provide proof of vaccination will be placed on unpaid administrative leave. And that applies to police, firefighters, anyone who works for the city. Many first responders are protesting that mandate as it is costing them their job. Among them, Boston Police Sergeant Shana Cottone. Shana has been very vocal about her stance against the mandate and was confronted about her vaccination status while eating at a pizza restaurant this weekend. Take a look.
Mayor Wu said that the police weren't going to be enforcing the vaccine passports, but here you are. You're enforcing the vaccine passports. Why are you doing that? I know you're shamed because you can't even look me in the eye. You're shamed. You should be shamed because what you're doing is wrong.
And she is joining me now, Boston Police Sergeant Shana Cottone. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Marni.
So walk me through that video, how it all started.
Yeah, so earlier we had done a demonstration. We did a march. We had over 1,500 families, first responders and voters turn out in Boston in negative 11 degrees, mind you, to march against Mayor Wu's experimental vaccine passport policy and also the vaccine mandate. It was awesome. Everyone agrees that that is how it's done and that that's just the beginning. So we want to, first of all, thank everyone who came out and congratulate them for exercising their First Amendment rights. After that, we went out to get something to eat because we were hungry and thirsty. You know, we were promised by our mayor that the police weren't going to be involved in enforcing the vaccine passport program. That turned out to not be the case. You know, when we showed up, you know, we already know. We know that the lockdowns hurt businesses, and especially in the hospitality industry. We know that these vaccine passport policies are going to hurt. There's going to be a drop in business and consumer confidence. And the mayor said that, you know, don't worry, the police aren't going to be involved. You know, but that's proving to not be true on day one. I train officers to not violate people's civil rights. And what you saw in that video is clearly not what happened. We came to get a slice of pizza and get warm. Nobody wants a conflict with law enforcement. I do not want conflict with law enforcement. I am law enforcement. I respect law enforcement. I love law enforcement. You know, most cops are doing the right thing, but what I was subjected to wasn't good. And the public, if I'm being treated that way, I fear for what the public is going to experience with this policy in effect. It's not the police job to do this. And it's just another example of failure of leadership, both by the mayor and by, you know, I think the video speaks for itself.
Yeah. Let me jump in here. I want to ask you about the situation at the mayor's house and these protesters. They were chanting "Happy Birthday, Hitler" at one point. I know that you obviously have strong feelings about this. There are two very different sides. But is that language and rhetoric that you support? Give me your thoughts on some of the things that transpired once people showed up on this debate.
Yeah, so, you know, there was a lot of people that day. I don't know. I didn't hear that specific line. I'm not going to say if it happened or didn't happen. I'm not calling the mayor a liar. If that happened, you know, we can't control people's speech. It may be ugly speech, but that is their First Amendment right. You know, and sometimes that is ugly speech.
Well, before I run out of time here, I want to ask you, what now? How long are you able and can you afford continuing to take this stand? I understand you are on unpaid leave now. Sure.
Well, as long as the mayor keeps speaking with a forked tongue, I'm going to I will keep doing this as long as it takes. There's no emergency. She pushed back the mandate deadline by a week, so that demonstrates there's no emergency. We've seen angry mothers showing up to demonstrate. That's what you're seeing in those videos, by the way. Angry mothers and wives demanding that their kids be able to go to hockey, which, by the way, the mayor rolled back the vaccine passport rules for hockey camp and hockey, youth hockey, because of the outcry from the mothers and the public. So that's a good thing. And we asked the mayor, please roll it back completely. There's no science backing this. Dr. Walensky a couple of days ago said, it doesn't stop transmission. So I have as much time as it takes. I'm not going to give up. I will keep doing this, whether I'm being paid or not. I will keep fighting this. And I want every single person in this state, in this country, to know you can join us. Every single person's a leader. It takes one person. Each one of us has it within us. You don't need an elected leader to tell you what you can and can't do. Stand up with us, raise your voice, and we can do this together. It doesn't have to be this way. And again, I just ask Mayor Wu, please have a heart. That's all we're asking. Right. Follow the science.
We'll leave it there, but we'll continue to follow this. Boston Police Sergeant and Boston First Responders United President Shana Cottone, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are calling it America's new epidemic, fentanyl. It takes very little to kill you, as you see on your screen right there. The latest victim, sadly, a 13-year-old boy in Connecticut. Next, a former DEA agent who spent decades fighting the drug trade. And major airline CEOs with a warning tonight. This is new. Rolling out 5G cell phone service will cause, quote, catastrophic disruptions to air travel. Those are their words, catastrophic. How are they not prepared? And how could this be such a big issue right now? We've got some answers later in the hour. And don't forget to follow us on social media at The Donlon Report. We'll be right back. Now to a heartbreaking story out of Hartford, Connecticut. A 13-year-old is dead after overdosing on fentanyl. 13. Seventh grader was hospitalized last week when he was found unconscious after being exposed to the deadly drug at his school. This is a story that unfortunately is not uncommon, and that is why we are calling it the new epidemic in America. Fentanyl is the #1 killer of adults aged 18 to 45. And joining me now for more is retired DEA agent Jack Riley. He has more than 30 years of experience working to keep fentanyl and other drugs like it, dangerous ones, off the street. Sir, we appreciate your time tonight. 7th grade, 13 years old. That seems very young to me, but am I naive to be thinking that it's not more common than that?
You know, unfortunately, you are. This is the extent of this problem, the enormity of what we're dealing with. And you got to believe, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that, certainly not in my time.
Where are they getting it?
Well, primarily it's being produced south of our border by the Mexican cartels, who are being sourced with the precursor chemicals out of Asia, primarily China. So this is an international organized crime issue, and for us to be successful here, we're definitely going to have to work with our counterparts overseas a little more aggressively, I think, than we have.
You know, in terms of how dangerous fentanyl is, I certainly know how dangerous it is, but when we're talking to our kids, do they have any grasp or understanding of how deadly this drug, even in contact, can be?
You know, no, they don't. And unfortunately, even some of law enforcement don't understand that it can kill you simply by being absorbed through the skin or breathing it, let alone using it as a recreational drug. And what the cartels are doing now, quite frankly, across the country, is producing it in pill form. So people think they're actually getting pharmaceuticals that are produced in a sterile laboratory. In reality, they're in somebody's garage south of the border being stirred with a boat oar.
And once it ends up in the hands of a 13-year-old, is there any way for them to tell the difference?
Absolutely not, and that is the real danger. You know, several years ago, we were seeing street-level heroin cut with fentanyl, and that's when we really began to see it. And even then, we had tremendous overdoses because the people selling it, let alone the people using it, really had no idea. It's 40 to 50 times stronger than street-level heroin. And when you put it in pill form, there's no telling how potent it can be.
You know, in terms of parents, oftentimes we hear from those who say, I had no idea my kid was involved with any of this. It's a surprise to me. So how do we intercept it? How do we stop it? And what role does social media play in all this?
Well, social media is really important because much of what we're seeing in pill form is coming from the dark side of the internet, where they can actually go online and order it. Much of what we're seeing here in the United States, in addition to the Mexican cartels is being shipped through our mail. The U.S. Postal, UPS, FedEx, coming primarily from Asia and most likely from China.
You know, before I let you go, the message used to be just say no, right? I remember that in school. You do too. What is the message now when it comes to fentanyl and drugs like this on the market?
Here's what scares me, and DEA just came out with a new public awareness ad. One pill can kill, and I can tell you it will kill you. And this is nothing to fool around with, and parents and educators really need to get involved.
13 years old. Jack Riley, we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to turn now to two parents all too familiar with the dangers of fentanyl. They lost their 16-year-old son, Cooper, to a drug overdose. Randy and Libby Davis are joining us tonight. Thank you both for your time, and I am very, very sorry for what you've been through and for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Cooper. Tell me about him and what happened.
Well, Cooper, you know, he was full of life. He went about 100 miles an hour. He was definitely a thrill seeker, and we always say adventurous to a fault. And we did know that Cooper was recreationally using drugs from time to time, and we were doing everything we could to warn him about the dangers and try to, you know, curb that type of behavior. But he definitely lived with the mentality that it will never happen to me, and he thought he was invincible.
Do you know how he got his hands on fentanyl?
Well, you know, the kids that are, you know, we say overdosing, they're not really overdosing. They're being poisoned by a pill that they don't know has fentanyl in it. They're buying things like Percocet, Xanax, ADD medication. They're buying it mostly off of Snapchat or other social media sites. At least that's where the connections are. But the kids don't know that they're taking fentanyl. They did not ask for fentanyl the day that they got those pills.
So where do we intercept here? What do we do, knowing what we know, and as parents, as caregivers, trying to get to our kids when clearly they don't understand the dangers that lay before them?
I think you got to have that tough conversation with them and let them know the warning. You know, I think the problem with the pills coming across the border so easily that they're already here. So that message just needs to be made aware to all the kids and anybody that's trying something like that, that know the danger that's there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I guess the question I always come back to, if it is in fact that dangerous, you both work with this drug in a medical setting, you know, why do we even have it? What's the primary use?
It's a painkiller. It's, you know, it's used for short-term pain control in a surgical setting. That's what it's used for. It's not designed for long-term pain control or chronic pain users. So that's the scary thing about it.
Yeah, being misused by so many. Randy and Libby, to you both, again, I am sorry for the loss of Cooper. I know that you are turning this tragedy into a mission to try to get the words out. So thank you for sharing a bit of your story with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Scary. The latest political fight in our schools banning books. Parents and lawmakers on both sides are doing it. What's in these books that have so many people upset? Some of them are classics. You've heard of them. We're going to tell you which ones coming up. Also still ahead, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey joining us to discuss how she overcame obstacles to rise to the top of the ranks of her profession, dominated by white men. That's next. We've called education the new political battleground. You've heard that before. And again, books are getting caught in the crossfire. Both Democrats and Republicans are calling to ban numerous books from school libraries. The American Library Association tracking at least 330 challenges from just September to November of 2021 alone. Joining me now to talk more about this, Mo Kelly and Tony Katz. Gentlemen, appreciate both of your time. Thank you and good to see you. All right, Mo, let me start with you. Mo Kelly, it's beginning to feel a lot like Fahrenheit 451. At least that's what I'm hearing. So what's going on here? Give me your take.
Well, I think you described it adequately and appropriately in your introduction. This is a political thing. This is not organic in nature. These are political forces trying to animate their respective voting bases. Like you said, it is on both sides. I would say it's on more on one side than the other, but they're trying to animate voters as we move towards the midterm elections. And they need something to get people out there. And this animates them.
Tony, it seems most of these books called to be banned are from Republicans. They're supposed to be the party of free speech, but we can't have it both ways, can we?
They are the party of free speech. We should all be the party of free speech. I can't believe we should think it should only belong to one. But I believe that you both have a misunderstanding of what's going on here. Parents are finally aware of what's going on in their kids' schools. They have ceded their kids' education to these institutions that they were supposed to trust. And what they have learned over the last couple of years is that they cannot trust them. And they're seeing things that they never thought they'd see before. And they're asking questions about it. And some people are being very rational about it, and some people are being very angry about it. But this is what happens when parents start getting themselves back involved in their kids' education. This is extremely valuable, and it's not book burning. It's not Fahrenheit 451. We're talking about school libraries. We're not talking about whether or not someone can sell a book like Abigail Schreier, who writes a book about the transgender craze seducing our girls and isn't allowed on bookseller lists out of Target and other places.
Well, I'm not going to go after just Republicans here. I'm equally going to target Democrats here. So, Mo Kelly, liberals are guilty of this too. And careful, Tony. I'm going to play both sides of this coin. Targeting books like To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, where does that get you? To talk about the conversation happening in schools, and why are we here again? Right? This is not a new fight.
It's not a new fight, and I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird, Huckleberry Finn, Of Mice and Men, and I was offended each time I had to read the N-word. So this is not new, but let's be honest about what it is. We're talking about physical books in a school library in a post-internet world. We're talking about classrooms which have laptops for all the kids, with kids who have actual phones with internet on them. This is a fake debate. It is not real. It's not a thing. If you want to say that parents are now awake and taking notice of what's going on in school, that belies the fact that there is an internet out there. And as much as I respect Tony Katz with all my heart, he knows that this is a political issue, not an actual educational one.
Well, let me ask you both this question. And Tony, I'll start with you. I mean, isn't it good to expose our kids to different points of view, multiple perspectives on whatever topic it is, if it's race, religion, sex, you name it?
Oh, absolutely, positively. But that's up to the parent to do. On the conversation of the internet, you'll notice that school internets are always locked down. There are many sites that kids can't get to. Are we arguing that middle school kids should be able to get to Pornhub? I don't think we really are. But if somebody is, please point them out to me so I don't invite them into my home. The conversation here is whether or not parents have rights and parents who are getting involved in their kids' education. If you want to argue it is political, and like people want to argue this is just about the culture wars. I'm somebody who is very keen on the culture war. Winning the culture is extremely important. And there has been the seeding of education, the seeding of arts, the seeding of sciences, and a series of other things. And people are finally saying, no, we can't give those things up. We have to be involved. I think it's wonderful.
Mo Kelly, I'll give you the final word, and I will admit I don't have as much time as Tony just took.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
It's right. No, it's all right. Be involved, but also involve James Baldwin. Also involve Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and also Richard Wright. It's not just one idea of what is right in America, no pun intended.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you to you both. I'm reading And the Mountains Echoed right now. Great book. I don't anticipate it's going to get banned. I recommend it. Guys, thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, on this national holiday honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his fight for civil rights, we wanted to talk to a good friend of the show who has also written 2 books with a third out this year about rising through the ranks of the white female-dominated Los Angeles police force in the late 20th century and the racism and sexism that she faced while beating the odds. Retired LAPD Police Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey is with us this evening. Sergeant, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I know that you have faced lots and lots of challenges. That is an understatement over the course of your career. Walk us through your journey and some of the biggest obstacles that you say you faced in terms of race and your gender.
Well, you know, I really didn't know what to expect when I joined the Los Angeles Police Department. I really did so because I just needed a good paying job. But what I want to say is that the problems that I experienced are not unique to being a police officer. These are the obstacles that one might encounter in any occupation. sexism, racism, reverse racism. And so I think if you understand that these things are possible, you'll have a plan A, B, and C to deal with it if and when it occurs. My greatest challenges initially were with my partners. I worked with guys, and I talk about it in my autobiography, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, who wouldn't speak to me during our shift. I mean, I'm sitting in a car with someone for 8 hours, and they don't have a word to say to me. How do you prepare for that?
I don't know how did you overcome that? How did you meet that adversity?
Well, I quit a job to become a police officer, and I was singularly focused on first getting through the police academy. And then after I graduated, my next challenge was getting off probation so that I'm vested, because as a probationary officer, you're at will. And then it was getting to the finish line, which was 20 years of service to get that coveted pension at the end of the rainbow.
Once you get into a leadership role yourself and you see the type of success you did rising through the ranks, how do you then address some of the issues that you faced early on in your career? Because I know it still happens.
Absolutely. And we hear horror stories all the time that women are facing. And listen, it's not unique to police officers. Police chiefs we see have that same struggle. But for me, as a patrol supervisor, I had a lot of control in my mind over my officers. And so I ensured that my officers treated everyone the way I expected to be treated, the way I would want someone to treat my family members should they encounter them. I wanted to give my probationary officers a fair chance to demonstrate, if they could, that police work was for them. Now, listen, there are people out there who shouldn't be. Everybody who wants to be the police shouldn't be. And so sometimes you have to make those tough decisions and help people to an occupation that their skill set is better suited for. And so it's a very difficult task. It's not for everyone, but what a great opportunity, what great friendships, great partnerships that I have made that have been lifelong, and I still enjoy to this day.
Was there a pivotal person in your story that made the difference for you, that you looked towards as a mentor that helped us, certainly in those times where you found it most challenging?
In the very beginning, we had something called, we had training that all the females could go through because upper body strength was an issue, and they wanted to make sure, because of a consent decree, that the women who were joining would actually graduate. And so there was a female officer, Jeannie Eisentraut, God bless her. She was a mentor, she was an encourager for me, and she kept me in the right mindset to first get through the academy and off probation. And then once I became a police officer, I had really great training officers in my first assignment who treated me with the kind of respect and dignity that you would expect when their peers, not so much. And so those were very pivotal relationships. And then me just being me, the kind of person I am, determined to make it to the end of whatever it is I'm encountering. I was able to see off probation, and then, of course, all the trials and tribulations over my 20-year career make it to the end.
Well, and you've had great success. Just a couple of seconds, I want to get what you share in terms of advice for other women of color who are working either in law enforcement or another profession. What is the one thing that you tell them?
Have a good support system, be open and candid about your encounters, and share with folks who are on the department in a position of authority to help you when you run into obstacles or folks who are not so kind in their efforts to maybe get you gone.
A lot to celebrate in all the work that you have done. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, as always, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Governor Ron DeSantis bucks the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers, what this means for Florida healthcare facilities, and the dangerous precedent it sets for disagreeing with SCOTUS rulings. That is tonight on Dan Abrams Live. Make sure to tune in, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Major airline CEOs with a warning tonight. Rolling out 5G cell phone service will cause catastrophic disruptions to air travel and potentially strand thousands of people overseas. Will that get it fixed ahead of Wednesday's deadline? We'll be digging into that coming up next. Now to a dire warning from the CEOs of several major U.S. airlines tonight. A, quote, catastrophic aviation crisis could happen on Wednesday when AT&T and Verizon launch their new 5G service. The airlines warn that the 5G rollout could ground a large number of aircraft, possibly stranding tens of thousands of Americans abroad. That is according to a Reuters report late this afternoon. Peter Greenberg, travel detective, joining me now to break all this down for you. So, Peter, I see two major issues, safety being the first and inconvenience the second. Let's start with safety and what that means for passengers in the air when it comes to 5G.
Well, we're talking about power levels, intensity and frequency, and of course, anything proximity to airport and airline operations. And what we're really talking about here is in airports where pilots, when they have issues of low visibility, they need their radar altimeters, and the power from the 5G towers can affect that. So what the airline CEOs were talking about today is that in cases of low visibility, and this happens, by the way, very early in the morning, late at night, when pilots would have to rely on this, you'd have to ground about 1,100 airplanes, stranding about 100,000 passengers at the minimum. We already have a situation in France where they have regulations in 20 separate airports to reduce the 5G power at times of low visibility. So there's some precedent here to start adjusting these 5G towers.
Well, and if I'm reading this right, Peter, the FAA said it cleared 45% of U.S. commercial airplanes to perform low visibility where 5G was deployed, but the airlines note that the list did not include any of the large airports. So my question is, why not?
Well, the large airports have another thing in place. That's called a Category 3 landing, which is in areas of really low visibility, or in some cases, no visibility at all, which provides for an ability to have a hands-off landing, a completely hands-off landing. It's an interactive system where the airport system actually talks to the plane. But the problem is, if the 5G is affecting the radar altimeter, the systems will not work, and the plane has nowhere to go because he can't land. That's what they're talking about. Areas of low visibility, they'd have to do a go-around and divert to another airport, hence the stranding of passengers.
Pardon the obvious and very basic question, but why weren't they better prepared? We knew this date was coming.
Well, you know, we've had issues before inside the plane where you couldn't use your telephone, your airphone, your cell phone, your laptop, any other electronic device. But then the FAA tested all the avionics in the cockpit at a distance of only 1 foot away from it, and they ramped up the RF interference up to 100 times and found no interference at all. But this is about interference coming from outside the plane, and now we're finally discovering that there could be.
Let's walk it forward. Let's say they get all the things that they want. It rolls out as planned. What are the changes that people in the air will notice as they fly?
Well, they won't notice anything in the air, but they will notice something on the ground. And that is, you're going to have to reduce the power from these 5G towers at critical times of the day or where they're too close to the airport. And when that happens, you may not be able to call Aunt Tilly. The other thing is, if they can't fix the radar altimeter interference, then they're going to be they'll be limited. The airplanes will be limited as to not only where they can land, but when they can land.
How do you see this all playing out, Peter?
Well, listen, this is not a game of chicken where you wait for somebody to blink. The blinking's already happened. My guess is the cell phone companies are going to have to adjust. This is an area of commerce, safety, and transportation, and that may take precedence over convenience of new technology and cell phones.
In the meantime, for those passengers who are overseas watching all this happen, is there anything they can do?
Well, right now, the airlines are not going to put anybody at risk. The airlines are going to operate within safety margins, but at the same time, they're going to have a plan B in place so that if they detect any interference, they're going to have to divert. And you know what? It's only going to take a couple of those well-publicized diversions to bring this issue to a close.
Now, the clock is ticking to Wednesday. Peter Greenberg, travel detective, as always. Thank you for breaking it down for us.
You got it.
All right, On Balance with Leland Vitter. It starts at the top of the hour, and Leland is here with a closer look at what you got cooking.
We got the crime wave in America that we've talked about a lot. You guys have been reported on Prime and on the Donlon Report. Big question now is why puppy napping? And there's been this string of puppy kidnappings. And it kind of sounds funny, at least when you say it, and then you realize people are taking French bulldogs that are worth $5,000 to $10,000, and they're giving people basically a choice. Either pay a ransom, or we're going to sell your dog on the black market. And these French bulldogs, for obvious reasons, get huge money. The reason they target French bulldogs is because of just how wealthy their owners are, having bought them. So we're going to talk to a pet detective who actually goes out and people hire to track down their pets once they've been kidnapped.
It's more than just puppy napping, right? Than Cruella de Vil.
Right. No, it is. And it's also starting to get really violent. There's a lot of people who are using hand weapons to grab people's dogs.
Right. I mean, it's the
chase
Lady
them
Gaga
down.
situation.
Exactly. But interestingly enough, Lady Gaga is the most sort of well-known of these, but there's been about a dozen or so that we're seeing around the country.
Well, and the other side of this that I don't know if you guys will get into, but these French bulldogs have a lot of health concerns. I mean, it's a typical breed that you end up in the vet with a lot of bills after you dog nap one of these guys.
Is that true?
Or gals.
I didn't know that.
It is. They got little smush faces.
Is that what makes them
hard to breathe? I don't know.
We'll see if any puppy nappers are taking him to vets. This is a new part of the story.
Well, I mean, they steal them, but then they got to pay to keep them healthy.
All right.
We'll see.
It's a new one.
I don't know. We'll see, Leland.
Here you go.
Thank you. All right, in tonight's American Snapshot, we are paying tribute to one of the last Tuskegee Airmen. And to all our viewers out there, we want to thank you for making NewsNation the fastest growing cable news network in the country. As always, we appreciate that. We'll be right back. Well, the pandemic has been a challenge for everyone around the globe, but for one group, the light at the end of the other tunnel is much brighter, and it's definitely greener. I'm talking about the super rich. According to Oxfam, the world's richest have more than doubled their fortunes since the onset of the pandemic. And that list includes some familiar names: billionaires Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. That's to name a few. Tesla's CEO Elon Musk's wealth grew by more than 1,000%, in case you're wondering, according to that recent report. There has been a new billionaire created almost every day during this pandemic, said Oxfam Chief Executive Danny Srisk-Anja. He went on to say, meanwhile, 99% of the world's population worse off because of lockdowns, lower international trade, less international tourism, and as a result, 160 million more people have been pushed into poverty. Something is deeply flawed with our economic system. The wealth of the top 10 richest, by the way, grew by more than $1.5 trillion from the beginning of the pandemic to November of last year. Well, after leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a playoff win this weekend, quarterback Tom Brady had a special surprise for Bucs fan Noah Reeb. He's a 10-year-old brain cancer survivor.
I worked with both the Bucs and the NFL to get you and your family Super Bowl tickets this year in LA. We certainly hope to be there, but I know you're going to be there. It's going to be really cool for all of us.
How good is that reaction, right? The smile on his face, ear to ear. Noah first got Brady's attention by holding a sign at a Bucs game that read, "Tom Brady helped me beat brain cancer." It was a super moment from a 7-time Super Bowl champion and from the NFL's GOAT to the reigning MVP. Really cool for Noah. Well, Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers got into some hot water earlier this year for claiming that he was immunized from COVID-19, only to later admit that he had not been vaccinated. Rodgers apologized for his claim. Now he is dropping in the NFL's most liked player rankings. After finishing 4th last year, Rodgers has dropped now entirely out of the top 20. Rodgers better hope that his receivers don't drop as much as he did this weekend. We'll all be watching. All right, into tonight's American Snapshot, we are paying tribute to one of the last Tuskegee Airmen, Brigadier General Charles McGee. Flashback more than 80 years to the heart of World War II, and on July 19, 1941, the first Tuskegee Aviation class began flight training, becoming the first service program to train African Americans to fly, maintain, and support combat aircraft during World War II. The following year, 5 of the cadets completed the pilot's training program, becoming the nation's first African American military pilots. Brigadier General Charles McGee was not in that first class, but was one of the last surviving members from the historic group. General McGee died yesterday, 102 years old. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tweeted, "I am saddened by his loss. I'm also incredibly grateful for his sacrifice, his legacy, and his character. Rest in peace, General." That is our time for tonight here on the Donlon Report. As always, thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere. Leland's up next on Balance.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.